Hello everyone, welcome to another video of mine. It's Kamada Blay, and this is another tactical analysis video, another series that I've created on this channel where I'll be looking at each manager that's been a potential candidate to replace Frank Lampard, delving into their tactics, how they're going to deploy their formations, looking at their past achievements, what they could offer to Chelsea, their formation, their style of football, their brand of football. It's something that you guys seem to enjoy. The first episode was on Thomas Tuchel and why he'd be the perfect fit for Chelsea. Looked at his tactics, delved into, did a really detailed analysis on him, his past achievements, what he could offer to Chelsea. I'll be doing the same in this video for Julian Nagelsmann. The next video will also be on Maximiliano Allegri. I'll be doing Brendan Rodgers. I'll be doing all the potential Chelsea managers, including Erik ten Hag as well. So yeah, if you guys do enjoy this series, don't forget to smash like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification. But without further ado, let's get straight into today's tactical analysis video on Julian Nagelsmann. I'll be looking at his past achievements, his formation, his innovative methods, what he could offer to Chelsea, the style of football, how he could improve our attack line, looking at build-up play, his defence, to transition. I'll be delving into so much detail in this tactical analysis video, but starting off with his past achievements. Who is Julian Nagelsmann? What has he done so far in his managerial career? Now, so far in his career, Julian Nagelsmann has become the youngest manager to become a permanent manager of a Bundesliga side, 28 years old. He won Germany's Manager of the Year award at the age of 29. He coached in the Champions League at the age of 31. He topped a UCL group with a team at the age of 32, and he coached a side in the Champions League semi-finals at the tender age of 33 years. So extremely young manager. He's the youngest manager to get all these achievements. He took over Hoffenheim in the February of the 2015-16 season, where they found themselves 17th in the Bundesliga. He made an immediate impact, winning 7 of the remaining 14 games. He saved them from the seemingly inevitable fate of relegation and guided them to a 15th-place finish. Again, really impressive. He's a bit like Tuchel in the sense where he's done it with a lower league club. Now that he's been successful at RB Leipzig as it stands, he's done it at a lower level club. So he's got a very good pedigree and he's got a proven track record, which is what I preach for when looking for a manager and what I slate Lampard for. In the 2016-17 season, Nagelsmann guided his club to a spot in the Champions League for the first time in their history. An unbelievable feat considering they were on the brink of relegation when Nagelsmann took over. When Nagelsmann took over Hoffenheim, they were 17th place in the Bundesliga, and the following season they secured the Champions League spot. That is a miraculous comeback. It's a bit like what Tuchel did with Mainz. They're very similar in their storyline. Now, in this season, he masterminded victories over FC Bayern, Borussia Dortmund, RB Leipzig, with a relegation favourite team. It's absolutely incredible, phenomenal stuff. Now, the main question is, how has he been able to achieve this? With such a small team, with a low budget and low funds, how has he done this? This is where I talk and kind of delve into the innovative methods that Nagelsmann has created, that he's basically implemented in the training grounds. At Hoffenheim, he was one of the 2 Bundesliga clubs to use an innovative method called Footballnot. It's a German term, and it essentially installs a giant 6x3 meter video wall. Now, this Footballnot, which is an innovative method, is essentially a square-shaped arena where balls are hit to players at speed, forcing them to control in a short space and pass back out onto a target area. Now, essentially the whole point of this innovative method, this Footballnot, this square area where it essentially forces them to control, is essentially get players more comfortable with moving the ball in tight areas and tight spaces. So essentially makes players a little bit more press resistant. So you see how Kovacic is able to dribble in tight spaces. It forces the whole squad to be like that, because when you're able to dribble and move the ball in tight spaces, you're less likely to lose possession, give the ball away, and you'll be quicker when moving the ball, which essentially is a revolutionary piece of equipment that Julian Nagelsmann actually implemented. The next part is the video wall. The 6x3 meter screen. It works with 4 cameras. The feed from each camera is able to show on the screen at any time. This allows Nagelsmann to rewind, stop, pause, and look at any points and essentially tell the players what they're doing wrong. So essentially position the players in the correct area, and it allows the players to focus on what they're doing wrong and improve on their game. And it's shown at 4 different angles, so players can look at this at all times. Nagelsmann can essentially record this with the piece of equipment with the screen. Later on, go home that evening and then rewind, pause, record, look back and see, the players' positioning, they're moving on the ball, etc. It allows Nagelsmann to do a bit more deep analysis into the squad. Hoffenheim announced in the June of 2018 that the forthcoming season would be Julian Nagelsmann's last, and he left for RB Leipzig in June 2019. He left Hoffenheim as a legend, amassing 191 points in the time he had been in charge. Only Bayern Munich and Dortmund had accumulated more, which again is outstanding considering the position that Julian Nagelsmann initially took them. As I said, he took them when they were 17th in the Bundesliga. Nagelsmann splits the pitch into 4 central compartments and then 2 wide flanks. He divides the pitch in this way in order to break down a low, narrow block. This is the thing that I've always criticised Lampard for, and this is what we struggle with. Breaking down low block teams. We have all the creative players. We've got Mason Mount, Kai Havertz, Hakim Ziyech, yet we are constantly crossing the ball, unable to break down teams that sit with 2 banks of 4 with a low/mid block. Nagelsmann is an expert at breaking down these low blocks with the technology and his innovative methods that he uses and implements. That's why the football north is so critical, as the players receive the ball in tight spaces, move the ball with speed and precision, and allows them to dribble in tight spaces, allows them to be press resistant, and gives them a higher chance to break down these low blocks. As I said, this football north innovative method created by Julian Nagelsmann is essentially revolutionary. Allows players to move the ball in tight spaces. And yeah, that is the main, essentially, innovative method that Nagelsmann's added to the game, which a couple of other managers around Europe actually use as well. And as I said, it allows players to develop, it increases their development, improves their development, and it's something that Julian Nagelsmann's created. And for him to be so young, with all the achievements that he's had, as I said, the youngest manager to take a Champions League team to semi-finals, the youngest ever manager to manage a team in the Bundesliga, and he's still extremely young. As far as I'm concerned, he's in his 40s. So he's a very, very young manager. What he's done with Hoffenheim is incredible. What he's done with RB Leipzig is incredible. The involvement and development of Timo Werner, again, who is currently a Chelsea player. So if we did sign Julian Nagelsmann, you'd see he'd get the best out of Timo Werner, which again is a massive positive. Now, moving on to Julian Nagelsmann's formation, the team that he would usually deploy, the tactics. Julian Nagelsmann is not more of a one formation manager. You see these one-dimensional managers such as Maurizio Sarri, a Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, where they are very strict. They're very stubborn in the sense they use one specific formation. Now, Julian Nagelsmann is not that type of manager. He's very adaptable. He uses various different formations, such as the 3-5-2, the 3-4-3, and the 4-2-2-2. Again, which Werner has thrived in all 3 of these formations. Now, let's look at Nagelsmann's key principles. Now, Nagelsmann has 3 main key principles. The first one is fast vertical possession play, high intensive pressing, and playing attacking football on the front foot. Each suits Timo Werner's game, and it does suit the style of players that we have. This is what I'm saying is, I like some of you guys' suggestions of Max Allegri, but his defensive-minded style of football is going to ruin the attacking talent that we spent on in the summer and the players that we have. Our players are suited for attacking, high-pressing football, likes of Timo Werner, Kai Havertz, Ziyech, Mason Mount, who's one of the most high-intensive pressing players in the Premier League, likes of Christian Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi. Now, as I said, as their high-intensive pressing is perfect and tailor-made for Julian Nagelsmann's type of football, which is why I'm a massive advocate for getting Julian Nagelsmann as a manager. Now, looking at his defence, how does he set up his defence? Now, Nagelsmann tends to have high numbers up the pitch, with only the back 3 and one of the midfielders not extremely high. In the event of losing possession in the opposition final third, the pivot that he has at RB Leipzig of Sabitzer is one of his midfielders as a pivot. What happens is when he has essentially a lot of high attacking players in the opposition final third, the problem with that is when you get caught on a transition, there's not enough players back, and then it leads to a counter-attacking team for the opponent. Now, as he has essentially as he has a pivot in just behind that attack, it allows them to essentially stop the transition because they've got enough players in the midfield. So Sabitzer is in that pivot, and Lima, which is another RB Leipzig player, he has a pivot in behind. So even if they overcommit players, and even if they're caught on a transition, they've got enough players back to stop that counter-attack. If the initial press is bypassed, the back 3 will look to slow down the attack, which may mean resulting to tactical fouls. This allows the rest of the team to move back into defensive positions and essentially regrain their structure defensively. The pivot will cover the back 5, but may step out and press the opponent if needs be. The front 3 press in certain ways against specific opponents. It depends on whether the opposition are good at playing through the flanks, or right-hand side, left-hand side, or through the middle. So obviously Chelsea in the past, we predominantly used to attack mainly down the left-hand side because of Eden Hazard. Now, currently, again, we use both flanks on the Frank Lampard, but we don't really use mainly the middle. So Julian Nagelsmann is very adaptable in that sense, where he essentially will use, adapt his style of play, his tactics, his formation based on the opposition. So if the opposition prefers to play down the right-hand side, he'll make tactical changes based on that. Now, focusing on Julian Nagelsmann's implementation of the build-up play, what happens in Julian Nagelsmann's system when it comes to build-up play? Leipzig's defenders are encouraged to play the forward pass whenever possible, and side-to-side passing is only used if no forward pass is available. Now, this makes perfect sense, prevents the ball from being lost and possession being lost. Again, so essentially in the Julian Nagelsmann system, you need ball-playing centre-backs, which is exactly what we have at Chelsea. Christensen is a ball-playing centre-back. Kurt Zouma reminds me of a Dayot Upamecano that he has at his his disposal, Thiago Silva as well. We've already got ball playing centre back. This is what I mean. We already have a tailor-made squad for Julian Nagelsmann's system. So again, he needs ball playing centre backs in his system. Leipzig tend to build up into a 2-2-3-3 of sorts. That's the kind of formation they have when it comes to the defence. The Leipzig wings, the Leipzig wing backs or fullbacks, as I may say, push high and are used in the transition to form the midfield to attack more. So essentially, what I'm saying there is the fullbacks that they have in the Julian Nagelsmann system is they will press high up the pitch, but if needs be, they'll also tuck in to act as inverted fullbacks to give extra protection and cover for the defence and essentially add to that midfield. Because as I said, Julian Nagelsmann, he has a pivot in that midfield. By having the fullbacks that are pressing high, they tuck in to act as inverted fullbacks, and then it essentially gives extra defensive cover in that sense. Now, Upamecano, who is obviously RB Leipzig's best centre-back, will often move into the midfield to allow this move forward by Sabitzer. He then dribbles into midfield or moves into the midfield off the ball to help Lima, which is the other midfielder in the pivot for RB Leipzig, to progress the play up the pitch. Upamecano usually steps in midfield. How many times do you see Upamecano when, as I said before, he needs ball-playing centre-backs to essentially progress the ball. He needs progressing ball-playing and progressing centre-backs, Upamecano being one of them. The amount of times you'll see, if you go and look at RB Leipzig clips, Upamecano will always step forward into midfield to essentially cover where Lima is, so Lima is able to progress the ball and move forward into a number 10 type position to operate in those half spaces. So Upamecano will then step into midfield with the ball, he'll carry the ball into the midfield and then start attacks. So Upamecano is crucial to the way Julian Nagelsmann likes to set up an attack because, as I said, he essentially ball carries into that midfield. Now, Leipzig can also resort to one route if needs be, hitting the ball over the back foot of the opposition and having their forwards run onto it. Of course, they can rack it up because at the time they had Timo Werner. Timo Werner, electric pace. We know all about Timo Werner. Rapid pace, he uses acceleration. And if needs be, Bundesliga, there's a lot of space in behind that back line. So if needs be, they'll obviously play a ball over the top for Timo Werner to run onto. Playing behind, in behind that back four, off the shoulder of those centre-backs, and Timo Werner will be a throw-on goal. It's happened on numerous occasions when they used to have Timo Werner. Obviously, they've had to adapt because they did sell Timo Werner. Now, a key element of Leipzig's games are layoffs. Essentially, this is when a player comes deep for a 1-2, pulling his man out of position to create space for others to run into or passes to be played through. So again, they'll play a little 1-2 to create space for the other players as well. Very, very common in the Julian Nagelsmann system. This is what you'll see that is very common. Now, as I delved into all the tactics and made a lot of analysis for you guys there, it's clear to see that Julian Nagelsmann is a perfect fit for Chelsea. Various reports from Telegraph in the past few weeks and months stated that Roman Abramovich is a massive admirer of Julian Nagelsmann. You know, he plays attacking football, he's adaptable, he get the best out of Timo Werner. There is so many positives. He's a young, vibrant manager that would love to manage in the Premier League. I think he'd be a massive fit for Chelsea. I think they'd be perfect. Only downside is if we did sack Lampard now, he wouldn't come. You know, he'd only come at the end of this season. So I guess if you did sack Lampard, you'd take an interim manager in and then hire Julian Nagelsmann in the summer. But again, he'd be perfect for Chelsea. He'd be my second choice after Thomas Tuchel. Fantastic fit for Chelsea. And I hope you guys enjoyed that tactical analysis video. I'll be carrying on this series. We'll be looking at other managers as well. Brendan Rodgers, Massimiliano Allegri, Erik ten Hag. Maybe other managers you want me to do a tactical analysis video on. But if you did enjoy this video, make sure to smash the like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and I'll see you guys for my next video. Peace.